Do you want to be able to get an epic kasumi polish on your Sanmai tools? Well then check out this video and we're going to show you exactly what you need to do with your Ivory Nusantara Whetstones when you first get them from wildwhetstones.com. Check out the video and we're going to show you how you can very simply flatten and prepare your sharpening stone for your first use, and then we'll give you guys just a little demonstration of taking this knife and kasumi polishing it after the 1000 grit Naniwa Chosera. This stone is going to Dirk. So Dirk, if you're watching this, here's a quick demo of your stone. And watching the surface of the stone, I can see some swarf. That's that black steel coming off. So decently fast cutting for a stone that's capable of finishing. This is really best placed after like maybe a 600 or a 1000 grit stone because it does a good job of finishing, but it's got enough cutting speed to take you from semi-coarse or the very beginning medium stages from mid-range to finish. These bench-sized stones are going to last you for a very, very long time, even with abrading the stone. So let's talk about some simple flattening or lapping techniques. Now, if you only have a dressing stone, or say you're working with a different stone, not from Wild Whetstones, if you don't have anything, you can use sandpaper, or you could rub your stone on sidewalk, or take a brick and rub your rock with that, but you're not going to get as good of results. By using a matching piece of the same material, you get a conditioning effect where the stone reaches its more natural surface state. And if you abrade the stone with diamond plates, you really get the fastest results, and there's no foreign slurry. So if you slurry your stone with paper, you're not going to want to then sharpen with the mud that generates, because you're going to have chunks of 120 grit floating around in it. So really simple way to check how flat the stone is give yourself a reference. You don't need to spend a bunch of time with a pencil and a ruler and make a fancy looking grid. Just give yourself some scribbles. Try to cover your corners and your middle. That's the most important spots. And then you'll be able to see where the stone is dished out or high. Now, I really like the 140 grit Atoma diamond plate. This is the fastest, most aggressive surface texture. I also like the 600 grit DMT or the 325 grit coarse by the company DMT. This gives the stone a smoother finish. This gives the stone a little more cutting speed at first. Now, very simply, you can make figure eights, or you can go back and forth and get the stone wet, because while you do this, you're going to start getting stiction, and you can accidentally grab and throw your stone or your diamond plate. If it starts sticking to it and you push really hard, bad things can happen. So just keep your water nice and handy. You could even do a gentle stream and do one side and then do the other side. I just tend not to do it that way because I splash and make a huge mess. And generally, you want to try to cover the stone evenly. You don't want to spend a bunch of time going like this or like this, because you get unevenness. You might wear the corner down in the center and then leave that high. So I try to go across the stone like so. And if you're starting to catch, you can just gently lap the corner. I try to hold at a 45-degree angle. This is a very, very high polishing stone with decent hardness. It's not crazy hard, it's not crazy soft. It's kind of in the middle, maybe a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. Now, I've removed most of my pencil streaks, but I can still see right in here. That's the lowest spot on my stone. So we're gonna mark that. And I'm gonna show you guys what this looks like as well with your nagura, your slurry stone. That's Japanese for friend stone, tomo nagura. Now, you can very quickly dress the stone like this as well. It's just not as aggressive as a diamond plate, but it yields really nice mud very quickly. Very quick to slurry. And if I give a lot of pressure to that low spot, what'll happen is it's still gonna be my low spot. So I'm just showing you that even though I'm wiping out all the pencil streaks, when I do that whole surface again and go back to the diamond plate, you'll see that I still have a low spot there. That's something to be careful of when you're truing your stone. You can see there's no pencil left at this point, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's flat. You should check and reevaluate and consider your technique that you're using. So nothing too fancy. Just make your grid. Get your edges. This is going to tell you your contact points. And then watch what happens with covering the whole surface now. So just a few passes so you can still see the grid. And bam, there's my low spot there, and a bit up here as well. So you can also take your stone, do a quick 180 with it. Sometimes that helps people if you're putting pressure unevenly or if your sink bridge is slightly tippy. So here's that stiction I was talking about. I didn't wash it soon enough, and you can see that everything is trying to come apart. And I can even pick up the stone like this. So you want to be very careful that you're flushing your stone with water while you're lapping, so that doesn't happen. And if you do get stuck like this, just gentle side to side pressure. You don't want to pry up, because you can dig this corner of your diamond stone into the surface of your stone. So I'll go like that until I can slide off. One big benefit of the Oma for lapping stones is that dots pattern helps create less stiction. With the DMT style diamond plates, the stiction happens really quickly. So just something to be cautious of. Now you can fight that stiction effect as well by using your diamond plate in this direction, but you're gonna have a harder time keeping the whole surface even. So if you go this way, I would recommend ending the other way. And spend a little bit of extra time doing the ends, because you're gonna spend more time in the middle naturally like this. And I might add that I'm feeling if I can put any pressure on the plate. So sometimes people will favor pushing in one direction, so just try to keep it balanced. Now you don't have to use the pencil grid, because I can also just see that this part of the stone got polished by the nagura, and this is the scratch pattern for your diamond plate. There's a difference in how that comes out. So there's some shine right here, and this is more of a dull matte kind of surface. So if I can watch this low spot carefully, I could also just not use pencil. Just something to consider, and that's a little bit about how different surface conditions play an effect. And this is really getting into the nuance of finer details, but if this is my low spot over here, the rest of the stone has to come down and meet it. So I don't need to spend a bunch of time trying to push on this spot. I need to get everything else until it matches. And usually once you've flattened a brand new stone for the first time, it doesn't ever need as aggressive of lapping in the future, as long as you keep up with it. So when you get your brand new ivory stone, if you used our 15% off discount that we're still running, that's the code winter15 on our shop. If you use that code and you just got your new stone, you're gonna need to lap it when you first get it. And then after that, it's not gonna need as much flattening moving forward. It's gonna be the least flat when you first get a brand new stone. That's just a general rule of thumb. Even for synthetic man-made stones, they don't really come flat, except for diamond plates. These always come flat. Speaking of flattening stones, I don't like silicon carbide whetstone dressing blocks. They've got that slotted grooved texture in them, and they don't tend to wear out evenly. So you tend to get unevenness in the thing that you're using to try to make something flat and even. So I tend to say that a diamond plate really is your best friend, because you can also do sharpening work on these stones. They last forever, and for 40 to 60 bucks, you have basically an unlimited piece of sandpaper. So it's actually cheaper in the long run than buying sandpaper. So you'll see everything's getting hit except right here. So I'm almost done. And end with chamfering the corners. If you do that at the beginning, sometimes you flatten down, and if it's not a very aggressive chamfer line, then you end up doing it again. So I like to do that for my final time before using it, just to ensure that they're not going to catch an edge. You can just lightly round corners like that if you want to. You don't have to. All right. And at this point, she's flattened and she's ready to go. I'm working a kiridashi, which is a Japanese woodworking knife. And watching the surface of the stone, I can see some really faint swarf. That's that black steel coming off. So decently fast cutting for a stone that's capable of finishing. Just sharpening here with water, and I'm using lighter pressure, and I'm focusing behind the line here to give it that nice distinction on the cladding. So that's the sign of a really high quality stone. When you can do kasumi style polishing, it's because the particles are fine enough to give it that foggy appearance where the softer iron cladding meets the core steel. So that's good cutting speed and good polishing. Very, very impressed with these Indonesian stones. They do a really great job. About 1,400 orders that I've done on Wild Whetstones or naturalwhetstonesharpening.com. They're both the same website. We just have both domains. And we've sold close to $200,000 in the last 6 or 8 years in Whetstones. So we take our work really, really seriously. And so I hope that it speaks a lot to the quality for you guys, knowing that we trust the partners we're working with and we back our work 100%. So if you get one of our stones and it's damaged or there's a flaw that we somehow missed or it gets broken in shipping, speak with us and we're going to cover you. So we want to make sure that you guys are 100% satisfied, and we want to get these stones into the United States market because they're really, really high value. You really can't beat the performance and the quality. It's really hard to find natural whetstones that have the right hardness, the right cutting speed, and good grit. So this is just the first of a few different strata that we're exploring and testing thoroughly, but without too much work, there is a really nice kasumi polish here on my knife, coming off of a 1000 grit pre-polish. Nice kasumi effect on this kiridashi. You can see there's a low spot down there from the factory's grinding. And if you're sharpening single bevel, your last passes should be just a few soft strokes on the back. Razor, razor sharp, very scary to touch. And you can see a really nice mirror edge on the core steel. Good distinction in the cladding behind it. So that's really spectacular, because in the Japanese sharpening world, stones like this can cost as much as the first car I drove in, or more, or a 2 weeks paycheck. A lot of people can't afford to spend 500, 700, 800, 1,000, maybe 1,500. A lot of people are not a professional sharpener and can't afford that quality of Japanese stone. And with the geology of Indonesia being incredibly similar, with their stones also being a volcanic tuff from the Ring of Fire, we're at the very, very beginning stages. And so we're looking and mining right now and trying to find layers that have a similar hardness to suita, so that they'll give instant metal and sharpen just a little bit faster. But with the right technique, you can get the same end results. You don't have to go buy a whole set of stones. I have a bunch of synthetics because I'm a professional sharpener, but if you just have maybe a 600 grit diamond plate and maybe a 1000 grit whetstone, like the Chosera 1000 over here, this is going to give you a professional level of polish without having to spend an arm and a leg. So hope this little demonstration will help you guys out. The mining process in Indonesia is really extensive. We do a ton of quality control grading, and then I grade everything a second time once it gets out here. So check us out, and also if you like this kind of content, please subscribe here to the YouTube channel and check out our Facebook community group. We're like 50 members or 100 members away from breaking 9,000. So if that's something you're into, come add your energy to the community. We'd love to have you. See you in the next video. Stay sharp.